Good afternoon. I am Connlyn Sinclair, and welcome to Connlyn Sinclair Reads Lady Gregory. A bit of background: Lady Gregory is one of the most important compilers of Irish mythology. She lived in the 19th century, and with the help of an assistant, cataloged a great amount of Irish myths, all three cycles, and published them in two volumes. And I have managed to get a hold of her second volume, Gods and Fighting Men. And I will be reading this to you right here. Well, it's not live, it's as close to live as you're going to get, as no actual audiobook of Lady Gregory exists. Now, I have never read this book before. I will be reading it for the first time out loud to you. Now, I'm going to try to record all of the first book, which follows the adventures of the old Irish gods, in one take. I'm going to pause after each chapter so I can cut and edit this. But I'm going to attempt to do this in one take. I've reserved a recording studio to bring you this book. This is going to be quite fun. All right, so now I'm going to count down, and on 10, no, I'm not, no counting down. I'm just going to start. I'm going to start reading this book. Part 1, The Gods. Book 1, The Coming of the Tuatha De Danann. Chapter 1, The Fight with the Fearblogs. It was amiss the Tuatha De Danann, the people of the gods of Dana, as some called them the men of Dea, came through the air and the high air to Ireland. It was from the north they came, and in the place they came from they had 4 cities, where they fought their battle for learning, great Folius, shining Gorius, and Phineus, and rich Murius that lay to the south. And in those cities they had 4 wise men to teach the young men skill and knowledge and perfect wisdom. Ceneus and Murius, and Arius the fair-haired poet, and Phineus, and Urius of the noble nature, and Gurius, and Morius, and Phalius itself. And they brought from those 4 cities their 4 treasures, the stone of virtue from Phalius, that was called the Leophale, the stone of destiny, and from Gurius they brought a sword, and from Phineus a spear of victory, and from Murius the 4th treasure, the cauldron that no company ever went away from unsatisfied. It was Nuda, the king of the Tuatha De Danann at that time, but Manannan, the son of Lear, was greater again. And of the others there were chief among them were Ogma, brother to the king, that taught them writing, and Dionect, that understood healing, and Niet, a god of battle, and Crednus, the craftsman, and Gobenu, the smith, and the greatest among their women was Bab, a battle goddess, and Macha, whose mast feeding was the heads of men killed in battle. I have no idea what that means. This is written an in very archaic Irish English, which is why I love this translation. And the Morgu, the crow of battle, and Iri and Fadla and Banba, daughters of the Dagda. All 3 gave their names to Ireland afterwards, and Adon, the nurse of poets, and Bridget, that was a woman of poetry, and poets worshipped her, for her sway was very great and very noble, and she was a woman of healing, along with that, and a woman of smith work, and it was first made the whistle for calling one to another through the night. And the one side of her face was ugly, but the other side was very comely. And the meaning of her name was Brio Saglet, a fiery arrow. And among the other women there were many shadow forms and great queens, but Dana, who is called the mother of the gods, was beyond them all. And the three things they put above all others were the plough, and the sun, and the hazel tree, so that it was said in the time to come that Ireland was divided between those three, called the hazel, and Kecht the plough, and Grian the sun. And they had a well below the sea, where the 9 hazels of wisdom were growing, that is, the hazels of inspiration and of the knowledge of poetry. And their leaves and their blossoms would break out in the same hour, and would fall on the well in a shower that raised a purple wave. And then the 5 salmon that were waiting there would eat the nuts, and their color would come out in the red spots of the sun. And any person that would eat one of those salmon would know all wisdom and all poetry, which is what Finn McCool does much later in the book, or at least I assume he does. As I said, I've never read the book, but I know the myth. And there were 7 streams of wisdom that sprang up from that well, and turned back to it again, and the people of many arts have drunk from that well. It was on the first day of Beltane, that is now called May Day, that Tuatha De Danann came, and it was to the northwest of Connacht they landed. But the Firbolgs, men of the Bag, that were in Ireland before them, and that had come from the south, saw nothing but mist and it lying on the hills. Eochid, son of Urk, was king of the Firbolgs at that time, and messengers came to him at Teamhair, and told him that there was a new race of people come into Ireland. But whether from the earth or the skies or the wind was not known, and they had settled themselves at Maugrain. They thought there would be wonder on Echod when he heard the news, but there was no wonder on him, for a dream had come to him in the night, and when he asked the Druids the meaning of the dream, it is what they said, that it would be not long until there would be a strong enemy coming against him. Then King Echad took counsel with his chief advisers, and it is what they agreed to send a good champion of their own to see the strangers and to speak with them. So they chose out Shrang, who was the great fighting man. And he rose up and took his strong red brown shield, and his 2 thick-handled spears, and his sword, and his head covering, and took his iron club, and set out from Teamhair, and went on towards the place the strangers were at Maugrain. But before he reached it, the watchers of Tuatha De Danann got sight of him, and they sent out one of their own champions, Bress, with his shield and his sword and his 2 spears, to meet him and to talk with him. So the 2 champions went towards one another slowly, and keeping a good watch on the other, and wondering at the other one's arms till they came near enough for talking, and then they stopped, and each put his shield before his body, and struck it hard onto the ground, and they looked at another over the rim. Bress was the first to speak, and when Shrang heard it was Irish he was talking, his own tongue, he was less uneasy, and he drew nearer and asked questions as to the other's family and race. This is very fascinating. The ritualized shield and spear combat is something you find in Greek mythology too. Must be a very old Proto Indo European type of combat. And after a while, they put their shields away, and it was what Strong said, that he raised his in dread of the thin, sharp spears that Bress had in his hand. And Bress said he himself was in dread of the thick-handled spears he saw Strang, and he asked were all the arms of the Firbolgs of the same sort. And Shrang took off the twings of his spears to show them better. And Bress wondered at them, being so strong and heavy, and so sharp at the sides, so they had no points. And Shrang told him the name of those spears was Crassic, and that they would break through shields and crush flesh and bone, so that their thrust was death or wounds that never healed. Then he looked at the sharp, thin, hard pointed spears that were with breasts, and in the end they made an exchange of spears, the way fighters on each side would see the weapons of the others were used to. And it was the message Brent sent to the Firbolgs that if they would give up one half of Ireland, his people would be content to take it in peace. But they would not give up that much, there would be battle. And he and Shreng said to one another that whatever might happen in the future, they themselves would be friends. Shreng went back to Team Hare and gave the message and showed the spear, and it is what he advised his people to share the country and not go into battle with a people that had weapons so much better than their own. But Ichid and his chief men consulted together, and they said in the end, "We will not give up half the country to these strangers, for if they do, they will soon take the whole." Now, as to the men of Dea, when Bress went back to them and showed them the heavy spear, and told them of the strong, fierce man he got it from, and how sturdy he was and well armed, they thought it was likely that soon would be battle, and they went back to where they were, to a better place, farther west, at Connacht. And there they were settled themselves, and made walls and ditches on the plague of Magnia, where they had great mountains, Belgata at the rear. And while they were moving there and putting up their walls, three queens of them, Bob and Macha and the Morrigu, went to Teamhare where the Firbolgs were making their plans, and by the power of their enchantments they brought mists and clouds of darkness over the whole place, and they sent showers of fire and blood over the people, the way they could not see or speak with one another through the length of 3 days. But at the end of that time, three druids of the Firbolgs, Cessern and Gnathet and Inganathic, broke the enchantment. The Firbolgs gathered their men together and came with their 11 battalions and took their stand at the eastern end of the plain of Magnia. And Nuda, king of the men of Dea, sent his poets to make the same offer he made before, to be content with half the country if it was given to him. King Ichid bade the poets to ask an answer of his chief men that were gathered there. And when they heard the offer, they would not consent. So the messengers asked them when they would begin the battle. "We must have delay," they said, "for we want time to put our spears and our armor in order, and to brighten our helmets and sharpen our swords, and to have spears like the ones you have, and as yourselves," they said, "you will be wanting to have spears like ours made for you." So they agreed then to make a delay of a quarter of a year in preparation. It was on Midsummer Day that they began the battle. 3 times 9 hurlers of the Tuatha De Danann went out against 3 times 9 hurlers of the Firbolgs, and they were beaten, and every one of them killed. And the king Ichad sent a messenger to ask would they have the battle every day or every second day. And it was what Nuda answered that they would have it every day, but there should be just the same number of men fighting on each side. Ichad agreed to that, but he was not well pleased, for there were more men of the Firbolgs than men of the men of Dea. So the battle went on for 4 days, and there were 4 great feats done on each side, and many great champions came to their death. But those who were alive at evening, the physicians on each side used to make a bath of healing, and every sort of healing plant or herb in it, and they would be strong and sound for the next day's fight. This is very fascinating. The story of the battle with the Firbolgs, which is sometimes the same as the battle with the Fomori, is one of the foundational Celtic myths. And I would love to know or to have a version that listed all the different champions. Really fascinating stuff. And on the fourth day, the man of Dea got the upper hand, and the Firbolgs were driven back. And a great thirst came upon Eachid, their king, and in battle he went off the field looking for a drink, and 350s of his men protecting him, and 350s of the Tuatha De Danann followed after him till they came to the strand that is called Trog Eithli. And they had a fierce fight there, and at last King Echod fell, and they buried him there. And they raised a great heap of stones over his grave. And when they were but 300 men left of the 11 battalions of the Firbolgs, and Shreng at the helm, Nuda offered them peace and their choice among the 5 provinces of Ireland. And Shreng said that they would take Connacht, and that he and his people lived there, and their children after them. It is of the Ferdinand that came afterwards, and made such good fight against Cuchulainn, and Urk, son of Cabri, that gave him his death. And that battle, that was the first fought in Ireland by the men of Dea, was called by some the Battle of Mog Truth. And the Tuatha De Danann took possession of Teamhair, and that was sometimes called Druim Carn, the beautiful ridge, and Liarthadrum, the grey ridge, and Druim Nagdeskin, the ridge of the outlook. All those names were given to Teamhair, and from that time it was above all other places, for its king was the high king of all Ireland. The king's wrath lay to the north, and the hill of the hostages to the northeast of the high seat, and the Green of Tehir to the west of the hill of hostages, and to the northeast of the hill of the seed, which was called Nemnoch, and out of it flowed the stream called Nith, and that was the stream that the first mill was built in Ireland. And to the north of the hill of the hostages was the stone, the Lia Fail. It used to roar under the feet of every king that took possession of Ireland. And the wall of the 3 Whispers was near the house of the women that had 7 doors to the east and 7 doors to the west. And it was in the house of the feasts of Teamhair used to be held. And there was a great house of the 1,000 soldiers near it, and to the south a little hill of the women soldiers. That's very interesting. Very well done. And the language is so archaic. You really get a sense of the language. It's very similar to James McPherson's language in Fingal, which I hope to read to you someday. Chapter 2: The Reign of Bress. But if Nuda won the battle, he lost his own arm in it, that was struck off by Shreng, and by that loss there came troubles and vexation on his people. For it was a law within the Tuatha De Danann that no man was not perfect in shape could be king. And after Nuda had lost the battle, he put out of the kingship on that account. And the king they chose in his place was Bress, that was the most beautiful of all their young men. So that if a person wanted to praise any beautiful thing, whether it was plain or a dun or an ale or a flame or a woman or a man or a horse, it is what he should say. It is as beautiful as Bress. And he was a son of the woman of the Tuatha De Danann, but his father was no one knew but himself. But in spite of Bress being so beautiful, his reign brought no good luck to his people. For the Fomor, whose dwelling place was beyond the sea, or as some say below the sea westward, began putting tribute on them, the way they would get under them under their own rule. It was a long time before the Fomor came first to Ireland. Dreadful they were to look at. and maimed, having but one foot or one hand, and they under the leadership of a giant and his mother. There never came to Ireland an army more horrible or more dreadful than the army of the Fomor, and they were friendly with the Firbolgs, and content to leave Ireland to them, but there was jealousy between them and the men of Dea, and it was a hard tax they put on them. A third of their corn they asked, and a third of their milk, and a third part of their children, so that there was not smoke rising from a roof of Ireland, but was under tribute to them. And Bress made no stand against them, but let them get their way. And as to Bress himself, he put a tax on every house in Ireland of the milk of hornless dun cows, or the milk of cows of some other single color, enough for 100 men. And one time, to deceive him, Netchin signed all the cows of Ireland in a fire of fern, and then smeared them with the ashes of flaxseed, the way they were all dark brown. He did that by the advice of the druid Fingal, son of Findamus. And another time they made 300 cows of wood, with dark brown pale in place of udders, and the pails were filled with black bog stuff. Then Bress came to look at the cows, and to see them milked before him, and Cian, father of Lugh, was there. And when they were milked, it was the bog stuff that was squeezed out, and Bress took a drink of it, thinking it to be milk, but he was not better of it for a long time. There was another thing against Bress. He was no way open-handed, and the chief men of the Tuatha De Danann grumbled against him, for their knives were never greased in his house. However often they might visit him, there was no smell of ale on their breath, and there was no sort of pleasure or merriment in his house, and no call for their poets or singers or harpers or pipers or hornblowers or jugglers or fools. And as to the trials of strength they were used to see between the champions, the, the only use of their strength was put to now was to be doing work for the king. Ogma himself, the shining poet, was under orders to bring firing to the palace every day for the whole army of the islands of Maud, and he was so weak for want of food that the sea would sweep away 2/3 of his bundle every day. And as to the Dagda, he was put to building raths, for he was a good builder, and he made a trench around the Rath Bressa, and he used often to be tired at the work, and one time he nearly gave in altogether for want of food, and this is the way it happened. He used to meet in the house of an idle blind man, Crendabal his name, that had a sharp tongue, and that coveted the dog's share of food, for he thought his own to be small beside it. So he said to him, for the sake of your good name, let 3 best bits of your share be given to me. And the dog gave in to that every night, but he was the worse for it. For what the blind man called a bit would be the size of a good pig, and with 3 bits would take a full third of the whole. But one day, as the Dagda was in his trench, he saw his son Agnes Og coming to him. That is a good meeting, said Agnes. But what is on you, for you have no good appearance today? The reason for that, said the Dagda, for every evening Crendabal the blind man makes a demand of the 3 best bits of my share of food and takes them from me. I give you an advice, said Angus. He put his hand in the bag then and took out 3 pieces of gold and gave them to him. Put these pieces of gold into the 3 bits you will give this evening to Crendabal, he said. They will be the best bits in the dish, and the gold will turn him the way he will die. So in the evening the doctor did that, and no sooner had Crendabal swallowed down the gold than he died. Some of the people said then to the king, "The Dagda has killed Crendabal, giving him some deadly herb." The king believed that, and there was anger on him against the Dagda, and he gave orders he should be put to death. But the Dagda said, "You are not giving the right judgment of a prince." And he told all that would happen, and how Crendabal used to say, "Give me the three best bits before you, for my own share is not good tonight." And on this night, he said, the three best bits were the three pieces of gold were the best things before me, and I gave them to him, and he died. The king gave orders then to have the body cut open, and they found the gold inside it, and they know it was the truth the Dagda had told. This is very interesting. The cadence of this part of the story reminds me a lot of translations of Native American folk tales, the way that the narration is done. And I don't know if that's because Irish transcribers talk to the Native Americans or what, but it's very interesting to me. And Angus came to him again the next day, and he said, "Your work will soon be done, and when you are given your wages, take nothing they may offer you till the cattle of Ireland are brought before you, and choose out one heifer then, black and black-maned, and I will tell you the sign of." So when the Dagda had brought his work to an end, they asked him what reward he wanted, and he did as Angus had bidden him, and that seemed folly to Bress. He thought the Dagda would have asked for more than a heifer of him. There came a day when at last, when a poet came to look for hospitality at the king's house, Copri, son of Eton, a poet of the Tuatha De Danann. It is how he was treated. He was put in a little dark, narrow house where there was no fire, or furniture, or bed. And for a feast, three small cakes, and they dry, brought, brought, I'm sorry. Oh, wow. Three small cakes, and they dry, were brought to him on a little dish. And when he rose up on the morrow, he was no way thankful, as he was going across the green. It is what he said: "Without food ready on a dish, without milk enough for a calf to grow on, without shelter, without light in the darkness of night, without enough to pay a storyteller, may that be the prosperity of Bress." And from that day there was no good luck with Bress. But it was going down, but it is going down he was ever after. And that was the first satire ever made in Ireland. Now as to Nuda, after his arm being struck off, he was in sickness for a while, and then Dion Neck, the healer, made an arm of silver for him, with movement in every finger, and put it on him. And from that he was called Nuda Argid Lam, of the silver hand, forever after. Now Meoch, son of Dion Neck, was a better hand at healing than his father, and had done many things. He met a young man having but one eye at team hair one time, and the young man said, "If you are a good physician, you will put an eye in the place of the eye I lost." "I could put an eye of a cat in your lap in its place of the eye I lost." "I could put an eye of the cat in your lap in its place," said Meoch. "I would like that well," said the young man. So Meoch put the cat's eye in his head, but he would soon have been without it after, for he wanted to sleep and take his rest. It is then that the eye started its squeaking of the mice, and the flight of the birds, or the movement of the rushes. And when he was wanting to watch an army or a gathering, then it was sure to be in deep sleep. And Miak was not satisfied with what his father had done to the king, and he took Nida's own hand that had been struck off, and brought it to him and set it in its place, and he said, Joint for joint, sinew to sinew. 3 days and 3 nights he was with the king. The first day he put the hand against his side, and the second day his breast, till it was covered with skin. And the third day he put bulrushes that were blackened in the fire on it. At the end of that time the king was healed. But Dion was vexed when he saw his son doing a better cure than himself, and threw his sword at the hand that cut off the flesh. But the lad healed the wound by means of his skill. Then Diok threw it a second time that reached the bone, but the lad was able to cure the wound. Then he struck him the third time and the fourth, till he cut out the brain, for he knew no physician could cure him after that blow. And Miak died, and he buried him. And the herbs grew up from his grave to the number of his joints and sinews, 365. And Armed, his sister, came, and spread out her cloak, and laid out the herbs in it, according to their virtue. But Dion saw her doing that, and he came and mixed up the herbs, so that no one knows all their right powers to this day. Then, when the Tuatha De Danann saw Nuda was as he was before, they gathered together at Teamhair where Bress was, and they bade him give up the kingship, for he had held it long enough. So he had to give it up, though he was not very willing, and Nuda was put back in the kingship again. There was a great vexation on Bress then, and he searched his mind to know how he could be avenged on those who had put him out, and how he could gather an army against them. And he went to his mother, Eri, daughter of Delbreth, and bade her tell him what his race was. I know that well, she said, and she told him that his father was a king of the former, Elothan, son of Delbreth, and that he had come to her one time over the level sea in some great vessel that seemed to be of silver. But she could not see its shape, and he himself having the appearance of a young man with yellow hair, and his clothes sewed with gold, and 5 rings of gold about his neck. And she that refused the love of all young men of her own people gave him her love, and she cried when he left her. And he gave her a ring from his hand, and bade her give it only to the man whose finger it would fit, and went away the same way he had come. And she brought out the ring then to Bress, and put it round his middle finger, and it fitted him well. And they went together to the hill where she was at the time, and saw a silver vessel coming down to the strand. And she and Bress and his people set out to the country of the former. And when they came to that country, they found a great plain with many gatherings of people on it. And they went to the gathering that looked the best, and the people there asked where they came from. And they said they came from Ireland. Have you hounds with you? They asked then, for it was the custom at that time when strangers came to a gathering to give them some friendly challenge. We have hounds, said Bress. So the hounds were matched against one another, and the hounds of the Tuatha De Danann were better than the hounds of the former. Have you horses for a race? They asked then. We have, said Bress, and the horses of the Tuatha De Danann were better than the horses of the former. Then, then they asked any among them a good hand with a sword, and they said that Bress was the best. When he put his hand on the sword, Ethan his father that was among them knew the ring, and asked who was this young man. Then his mother answered him and told the whole story, and that Bress was his own son. There were a sorrow on his father then, and he said, What drove you out of the country you were king over? And Bress said, Nothing drove me out but my own injustice and my own hardness. I took away the treasure from the people, and their jewels and their foodstuff, and there were never taxes put on them before I was their king. That is bad, said his father. It is for their prosperity you had a right to think, more than of your own kingship, and their goodwill would be better than their curses, he said. And what is it you are coming to look here for? I come to look for fighting men, said Bress, that I might take Ireland by force. You have no right to get by injustice when you could not keep it by justice, said his father. What advice have you for me then, said Bress. And Eilthin bade him to go to the chief king of the former, Bailor of the evil eye, to see what advice and what help he would give him. Now this is very interesting. In some versions of the story, the Feirbach and the former are the same people. Some scholars believe that originally both were the same group, separating them and adding the breast story afterwards is very interesting on Lady Gregory's part. So we're just going to pause here a second, and then we'll get to the next chapter. Now, as Nuda of the Silver Hand, he was holding a great feast at Teamhair. One time, after he was back in kingship, there were two doorkeepers at Teamhair, Gamel, son of Fegal, and Camel, son of Riagal. And a young man came to the door where one of them was, and bade him bring him to the king. Who are you yourself? Said the doorkeeper. I am Lugh, son of Cian of the Tuatha De Danann, and of Ethlin, daughter of Baelor, king of the former, he said. And I am the foster son of Talit, daughter of the king of the great plain, and of Echid the rough, son of Duach. What are you skilled in? Said the doorkeeper, for no one without an art comes to Teamhair. Question me, said Lugh. I am a carpenter. We do not want you. We have a carpenter ourselves, Luktar, son of Lukid. Then I am a smith. We have a smith ourselves, Colum Kulimek, of the three new ways. Then I am a champion. That is of no use to us. We have a champion before, Ogma, brother to the king. Question me again, he said. I am a harper. That is of no use to us. We have a harper ourselves, Abdian, son of Bichelmas, that the men of the three gods brought from the hills. I am a poet, he said, and a teller of tales. That is of no use to us. We have a teller of our tales ourselves, Eri, son of Ethman. I am a magician. That is of no use to us. We have plenty of magicians and people of power. I am a physician, he said. That is of no use. We have Dion Kent for our physician. Let me be a cupbearer, he said. We do not want you. We have 9 cupbearers ourselves. I'm a good worker in brass. We have a worker in brass ourselves. That is Cretan cred. Then Lugh said, Go and ask the king if any one man can do all these things, and if he has, I will not ask to come into Teamhair. The doorkeeper went into the king's house and told him all that. There is a young man at the door, he said, and his name should be Ildonic, the master of all arts. For of all things and people of this house he can do, he himself is able to do every one of them. Try him with the chessboards, said Nuda. So the chessboards were brought out, and every game that was played, Lugh won it. And when Nuda was told that, he said, Let him in, for like of him never came into Teamhair before. Then the doorkeeper let him pass, and he came into the king's house and sat down in the seat of knowledge. And there was a great flagstone that could hardly be moved by 4 times 20 yoke of oxen. And Ogma took it up and hurled it out through the house, so that it lay outside of Timur as a challenge to Lu. But Lu hurled it back again, that it lay in the middle of the king's house. He played his harp for them then, and he had them laughing and crying, till he put them to sleep at the end with a sleepy tune. And when Anuda saw all things Lu could do, he began to think that by his help the country might get free of the taxes and tyranny put on them by the former. And it is what he did. He came down from the throne and put Lu on it in his place for the length of 13 days, the way all might listen to the advice he would give. This now is the story of the birth of Lu, the time the former used to be coming to Ireland, bailer of the strong blows, or as some called him, of the evil eye, was living on the island of the Tower of Glass. There was danger for ships that went near the island, for the former would come out and take them. And some say the sons of Nemet in the old time, before the Firbolgs were in Ireland, passed near it in their ships, and what they saw was the Tower of Glass in the middle of the sea. And on the tower something that had the appearance of men, and they went against it with druid spells to attack it, and the former worked against them with druid spells of their own. And the sons of Nemet attacked the tower, and it vanished, and they thought it was destroyed. But a great wave rose over them, and all their ships went down, and all that were in them. And the tower was there as it was before, and Balor living in it. And it is the reason he is called of the evil eye. There was power of death in one of his eyes, so that no person could look at it and live. It is the way it got power. He was passing one time by the house of his father's druid, was making spells of death, and the window being open, he looked in, and the smoke of poisonous spells was rising up and went into his eye. And from that time he had to keep it closed unless he wanted death on some enemy. And the men that were with him would lift his eyelid with a ring of ivory. Now a druid foretold one time that it was by his own grandson he would get his death. And he had at that time but one child, a daughter whose name was Ethlyn. And when he heard what the druid said, he shut her up in a tower on the island. And he put 12 women with her to take charge of her and guard her, and bade them never let them see her with a man or hear the name of a man. So Ethlyn was brought up in the tower, and she grew to be very beautiful. And sometimes she would see men passing in the crocks, and sometimes she would see a man in her dreams. When she would speak that to the women, they would give her no answer. So there was no fear on Balor, and he went on with war and robbery. And he was so used to seizing every ship that passed by, sometimes going over to Ireland to do destruction there. Now it chanced that time that there were 3 brothers of the Tuatha De Danann, living together in a place called Durum Natini, the ridge of the fire. Gobanu and Samanthane and Cian. Cian was lord of land, and Goblu was the smith that had such a great name. Now Cian had a wonderful cow, the Gloss Gobbin, and her milk never failed, and every one that heard her coveted her, and many had tried to steal her away, so that she had been watched night and day. And one time, Cian wanting some swords made, and went to Gubanu's forge, and he brought the Gloss Gobbin with him, holding her by the halter. When he came to the forge, his 2 brothers were together, for Samanthane had brought some steel to have weapons made for himself, and Cian bade Samanthane to hold the halter while he went to the forge to speak with Gobnu. Now Baylor had set his mind for a long time on the glass goblin, and he had never been able to get near her to this time. And he was watching not far off, and when he saw Samanthane holding the cow, he put on the appearance of a little boy having red hair, and came up to him, and told him that he heard his two brothers that were in the forge saying to one another that they would use all his steel for their own swords, and make his iron. By my word, said Samanthane, they will not deceive me so easily. Let you hold the cow, little lad, and I will go in to them. With that he rushed into the forge with great anger on him, and no sooner did Baylor get the halter in his hand than he set out dragging the gloss along with him to the strand across the sea to his own island. When Cian saw his brother coming in, he rushed out, and there he saw Baylor and the glass out at sea, and he had nothing to do then but reproach his brother, and to wander about his wits that had left him, not knowing what way to get his cow back from Baylor. At last he went to a druid to ask for advice of him, and it was what the druid told him, that so long as Baylor lived, the cow would never be brought back, but no one could go within reach of his evil eye. Cian went to the woman druid Byrog of the mountain, and for her help, and she dressed him in woman's clothes, and brought him across the sea in a blast of wind to the tower where Ethlin was. Then he called to the women in the tower and asked them for shelter, for a high queen she was after saving from some hardship. And the women in the tower did not like to refuse a woman of the Tuatha De Danann, and they let her and her comrade in. Then Byrog, by her enchantments, put them all to sleep, and Cian went to speak with Ethlin. And when she saw him, that she said that was the face she had seen in her dreams. So she gave him her love, and after a while he was brought away again in a blast of wind. And when her time came, Ethlin gave birth to a son. And when Baylor knew that, he bade his people put the child in a cloth and fasten it with a pin, and throw him into the current of the sea. And as they were carrying the child across the arm of the sea, the pin dropped out, and the child slipped from the cloth into the water, and they thought he was drowned. But he was brought away by Byrog of the mountain, and she brought him to his father Cian, and he gave him to be fostered by Talit, daughter of the king of the great plains. It is thus Lu was born and reared. The birth of Lu, this part of the story, is one of the most well known Celtic myths. Versions of it are told all throughout Ireland and Scotland. Um, the names of the heroes change sometimes dramatically. Sometimes Cian is Cian, sometimes he's the son of the wolf's head. Sometimes he has a completely weird names other than son of the wolf's head. And in one case, Lou is born blind and mute and is later healed. It's very interesting stuff. And again, I'm sorry for butchering all these Irish names. Um, Too bad I don't speak Gaelic. And some say Baylor came and struck off the head of Cian with a white stone that has the blood marks on it to this day. But it is likely that it was some other man he struck the head off of, for it was the sons of Turian that came to his death. That Cian came to his death. And after Lugh had come to Teamhair and made his mind up to join with his father's people against the former, he put his mind to work, and he went to a quiet place in Grilloch Dulliard with Nuda and the Dagda, and with Ogma and Gulbanu and Dion Kent, were called to them there. A full year they stopped there, making their plans together in secret, the way the former would not know they were going to rise against them till such time as all would be ready, until they would know what their strength was. And it was from the council the place got its name afterwards of the whisper of the men of Dia. They broke up the council and agreed to meet again in 3 years, and every one of them went his own way, and Lu back to his own friends, the sons of Manannan. And it was a good while after that Nuda was holding a great assembly of the people on the hill of Unsneck, and on the west side of Teamhair. And there were not long and they were not long there before they saw an armed troop coming towards them from the east over the plains. And was a young man in front of the troops in command over the rest, and the brightness of his face was like the setting sun, so they were not able to look at him because of his brightness. And when he came nearer, they knew it was Lu Lemfada of the Long Hand, that he had come back to them. Along with him were the riders of the city from the land of promise, and his own foster brothers, the sons of Manannan, Siguth Glogil, the white flower, and Gotni Grom Shulek, the blue-eyed spear, and Sin Sindirg, the red ring, and Donald Don Rude, the red-brown hair. And it was that way Lu was. He had I apologize. All these old fancy words run together really easily. And it is the way Lu was. He had Manannan's horse, the Onbur of the one mane under him, and was swift as the naked cold wind of spring. And the sea was the same as dry land to her, and the riders never killed off her back. And he had Manannan's breastplate on him, that kept whoever was wearing it from wounds, and a helmet on his head with two beautiful precious stones set in the front and one in the back. And when he took it off, his forehead was like the sun on a dry summer day. And he had Manannan's sword, the Fregareth, the answerer, at his side, and no one that was wounded by it would ever get away alive. And when the sword was buried in battle, no man saw it coming against him had any more strength than a woman in childbirth. And the troop came to where the king of Ireland was with the Tuatha De Danann, and they welcomed each other. And they were not long till they saw a surly, slovenly troop coming towards them, 9 times 9 of the messengers of the former, that were coming to ask rent and taxes from the men of Ireland. And the names of the four that were the hardest and the most cruel were Ein and Ethflaw and Corin and Compare. And there was such great dread of these four on the Tuatha De Danann that not one of them would so much punish his own son or his foster son without leave from them. They came to where the king of Ireland was with the riders of the city. And the king and all the Tuatha De Danann stood before him, and Lu of the Long Hand said, "Why do you rise before that surly, sullenly troop, when you did not rise before us?" "It is the needful thing for us to do," said the king, "for it is there for I'm sorry. For if there was a child of us sitting before them, they would not think that too small a cause for killing him." "But my word," said Lu, "there is a great desire on me to kill, to I am very sorry, I'm butchering this story very terribly. There is a great desire coming on me to kill themselves. That is a thing that would bring us harm," said the king, "for we would meet our own death and destruction through it. It is too long a time you would meet your own death and destruct Ah, I'm really butchering this story. Let me start over from the beginning of this paragraph and try this whole thing again. It is needful for us to do it, said the king. For if there was but a child of us sitting before them, they would not think it too small a cause for killing him. By my word, said Lou, there is a great desire coming on me to kill themselves. That is a thing that would bring harm on us, said the king. For we would meet our own death and destruction through it. It is too long a time you have been under this oppression, said Lou. And with that he started up and made an attack on the former, killing and wounding them, till he had made an end to 8 nines of them. But he let the last 9 go under the protection of Nuda the king. And I would kill you along with the others, he said. But I would sooner see you go with the message to your own country than my own people, for they fear they might get for I fear they might get ill treatment. So the 9 went back till they came to Lachlan, where the men of the former were. They were told the story from the beginning to end, and how a young, well-featured lad had come into Ireland and killed all the tax gatherers but themselves. And it is the reason he let us off, they said, that we might tell the story ourselves. Do you know who this young man, said Baylor of the Evil Eye, then? I know well, said Ciethlin, his wife. He is the son of your daughter and mine. And it was foretold, she said, that from the time he would come into Ireland, we would never have power there forever again. Then the chief men of the former went into council, Ebe son of Need, and Sheencab, grandson of Need, and Sittle Salmore, and Leith, son of Lobius, and the 9 poets of the former that had learning and the gift of knowledge, and Lobius the Druid, and Baylor himself, and his 12 white-mouthed sons, and Sethlin of the Crooked Teeth, his queen. And it was just at that time, Bress and his father Ethlin were come to ask for help of the former. And Bress said, I will go to Ireland, and 7 great battalions of riders of the former with me, and I will give battle to this Ildenach, this master of all arts. And I will strike his head off and bring it here, so that you, to the Queen of Burbary, it would be a fitting thing for you to do, they said. They said they all. Let my ships be made ready for me, said Bress, and let food and provisions be put in them. So they made no delay, but went and got the ships ready, and they put plenty of food and drink in them. And the 2 swift Luoths were sent out to gather the army to Brest. And when they were gathered, they made ready their armor and their weapons, and they set out to Ireland. And Baylor the king followed them to the harbor, and he said, Give battle to that Ildenach, and strike off his head, and tie that island that is called Ireland to the backs of your ships, and let the destroying water take its place, and put it on the north side of Lachlan, and not one of the men of Deo will follow it there to the end of his life and time. Then they pushed out their ships and put up their painted sails, and went out from the harbor to that unstilled country on the ridges of the wide lane sea. And they never turned their course till they came into the harbor of Esdora, and from that they sent out their army through West Connacht and destroyed it altogether, through and through. And the king of Connacht at that time was Bo Durg, son of the Dagda. And that is the strange place to end chapter 3. I'm not entirely sure why Lady Gregory ended it there, especially because the next chapter is the completely unrelated story of Luff's father's death. Um, and it goes on for the next 13 pages. Um, as I said, Lady Gregory is the greatest compiler of Celtic myths, which is why I wanted to read her to you today. And she obviously had her own reasons for structuring the folk tales in this kind of episodic, chapter by chapter chronology. I certainly don't know what it is, but I would likely do the same if I was writing a uniform book about Celtic mythology. But let's pause here for a second so I can cut this, and the next chapter will start in a moment. Chapter 4: The Sons of Turian. And Lew of the Long Hand was at that time at Temher as king of Ireland, and it was showed to him that the former were landing in East Dara. And when he knew that, he made ready Manannan's horse, the Ionbatur. And that time of the battle of the day and night, he went where Nuda the king was, and told him how the former had landed at Isistera and had spoiled Bodurg's country. And it is what I want, he said, to get help from you to give battle to them. But Nuda was not minded to avenge the destruction that was done on Bob Durg, and not on himself, and Lew was not well pleased with his answer. And he went riding out of Teamhair westward, and presently he saw 3 armed men coming towards him, his own father Keon, with his brothers Ku and Sethlin, that were the 3 sons of Chianti, and they saluted him. What is the cause of your early rising? They said. It is a good cause I have for it, said Lew. For the former are come to Ireland and have robbed Bodurg, and what help will you give me against them? He said. Each one of us will keep him off 100 from you in battle, they said. That is good help, said Lew. But there is a help I would sooner have from you than that. Go gather the riders of the city to me from every place where they are. So Ku and Sethlin went towards the south, and Keon went northwards. And he did not stop until he reached the plain of Murithime, and he was going across the plain when he saw 3 armed men before him, and they were the 3 sons of Turian, son of the Agma. And it was the way it it was between the 3 sons of Turian and the 3 sons of Chianti. There was hatred and enmity towards one another. So whenever they met, there was sure to be fighting among them. And Kian said, if my 2 brothers had been here, it is a brave fight we would make, but since they are not, it is best for me to fall back. Then he saw a great herd of pigs near him, and he struck himself with a druid rod, and put on him the shape of a pig of the herd, and he began rooting up the ground like the rest. Then Brian, one of the sons of Turian, said to his brothers, did you see that armed man that was walking the plain a while ago? We did see him, they said. Do you know what do you know what it was that took him away? Said Brian. We do not know that, they. It is a pity you do not to be keeping better watch over the plains of this open country in time of war, said Brian. And I know what will happen to him, for he struck himself with a druid rod into the shape of one of these pigs, and he is rooting up the ground now like one of them. And whoever he is no friend to us. That is bad for us, said the other 2, for the pigs belong to some of the Tuatha De Danann, and even if we killed them all, the druid pig might chance to escape us in the end. It is badly you got your learning in the city of learning, said Brian, when you cannot tell an enchanted beast from a natural beast. And while they were saying that, he struck the two brothers with his druid rod, and they turned into thin, fast hounds, and began to yelp sharply on the track of the enchanted pig. And it was long, long before the pig fell out from among the others, and not one of the others made away, but only itself, and it was made for a wood, and at the edge of the wood Brian gave a cast of his spear, and it went through the body. And the pig cried out, and it said, "It is a bad thing you have done, and to have made a cast at me when you knew me. It seems to me you have the talk of a man," said Brian. "I was a man indeed," he said. "I am Kian, son of Chianti, and give me your protection now." "I swear by the gods of the air," said Brian, "that if life came back 7 times to you, I would take it each and every time." "If that is so," said Kian, "give me one request. Let me go back again into my own shape." "We will do that," said Brian, "for it is easier for me to kill a man than a pig." So Kian took back his own shape, and he said, "Give me mercy now." "We will not give it," said Brian. "Well, I have got better of you for all that," said Kian, "for it is in the shape of a pig you killed me. There, there would only be the blood money for a pig on me. But as it is in my own shape you killed me, there never was, never will be a person killed for worse and heavier fine will be paid for than myself, and the arms I am killed with. It is they who will tell the deed to my son. It is not with weapons you will be killed, but with the stones laying on the ground," said Brian. And with that he pelted him with stones fiercely and roughly, till all that was left of him was poor and miserable broken heap, and they buried him the depth of a man's body in the earth, and the earth would not receive the murder from them, but cast it up again. Brian said it should go into the earth again, and they put it in a second time, and the second time the earth would not take it. And 6 times the sons of Turian buried the body, and 6 times it was cast up again. And on the 7th time they put it underground, the earth kept it. And they went to join Lugh of the Long Hand for the battle. This is really interesting stuff. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you know that the Celtic code of law, which is the same as the early Germanic one, was centered around blood prices. And obviously, Kian, being a nobleman, would be worth a lot of money, and whoever killed him would have to pay a lot of money to his family. Because he's the father of the king, I imagine they really needed to cover up the evidence. Crime drama, ancient Irish style. Now, as to Lugh, upon parting with his father, he went forwards towards Teamhair westward, to the hills that were called afterwards Garrick and Ilgarrick, and to the ford of the Shannon that is now called Uthlain, and to Brianna na Adugarin, Sleeve na Shiglig, the round mountain of the poet's spring, and to the head of Sheen Sleeve, and to the place of bright-faced Corin, and from that to Magmore and Urk, the great plain of the fair where the former were, with the spoils of Connacht with them. It was then that Bress, son of Ethlin, rose up and said, "It is a wonder to me. The sun would be rising in the west today, and it is rising in the east every other day. It would be better for us to be the sun," said the Druids. "What else is there?" he said. "It is the shining face of Lugh, son of Ethlin," they said. Lugh came up to them and saluted them. Why do you come like a friend to us? Said they. There is good cause for that, he said, for there is but one half of me of Tuatha and the other half yourselves. And give me back now the milk cow of the men of Ireland, he said. May early good luck not come to you you either till either a dry or a milk cow here, said the men of them, in anger on him. But Lew stopped near them for 3 days and 3 nights. At the end of that time, the riders of the steed came to him, and Dirk, son of the Dagda, came with 2,900 men. And he said, what is the cause to delay in giving battle? Waiting for you I was, said Lew. Then the kings and chief men of the men of Ireland took their armor on them, and they raised the points of their spears over their head, and they made close fences of their shields, and they attacked their enemies at Magmora and Arnoch, and their enemies answered them, and they threw their whining spears at one another, and when their spears were broken, they drew their swords from their blue bordered sheaths and began to strike at one another, and thickets of brown flames rose above them, and from the bitterness of their many edged weapons. And Lew saw the battle pen was Bress, son of Ethlin, was, and he made a fierce attack on him, and on the men that were guarding him, till he made an end of 200 of them. When Bress saw that, he gave himself up to Lew's protection. Give me my life this time, he said, and I will bring the whole of the race of Former to fight it out with you in great battle. And I bind myself to that by the sun and moon, the sea and the land, he said. On that, Lew gave him his life, and then the Druids that were with him asked for protection for themselves. By my word, said Lew, if the whole of the race of Former went under my protection, they would not be destroyed by me. So then Bress and the Druids set out for their own country. Now as to Lew and the sons of Turian, after the battle of Mogmor and Arnott, he met two of his kinsmen and asked them, did they see his father in the fight? We did not, said they. I am sure that he is not living, said Lew. And I give my word, he said, that there will be no food or drink go into my mouth till I get knowledge by what death my father died. Then he set out, and the riders of the city after him, till they came to the place where he and his father parted from one another, and from that to the place where his father went into the shape of a pig when he saw the sons of Turian. And Lew came to that place in the earth, spoke to him, and said, it is in great danger your father was here, Lew. And when he saw the sons of Turian before him, it was into the shape of a pig he had to go, and in his own shape they killed him. Then Lew told that to his people, and he found the spot where his father was buried, and he bid them dig there, the way he would know by what death the sons of Turian made an end to him. Then they raised the body out of the grave and looked at it, and it was all one of bed of wounds. And Lew said, it was the death of an enemy of the sons of Turian gave my dear father. And he gave him 3 kisses, and it is what he said. It is bad the way I am myself after this death, for I hear nothing with my ears and can see nothing with my eyes, and there is no living pulse in my heart. With grief after my father, and you gods I worship, he said, it is a pity I have come here the time this thing was done, and it is a great thing that has not been done here, he said, and the people of the gods of Dana to have done treachery on one another, and it is long they will be under loss and be weakened by it, and Ireland will never be free from trouble, this out, east and west. Then they put Keon under the earth again, and after was the keening made over his grave, and the stone raised on it, and the name written in Agam. And Lew said, this hill will take the name of Kian, although he himself is stripped and broken. And it was the sons of Turian did this thing, he said, and there will be grief and anguish fall on them for it, and on their children after them. And it is no lying story I am telling you, he said, and it is a pity the way I am, and my heart is broken in my breast since Kion, the brave man, is not living. Then he bade his people go before him to Teamhair, but do not tell the story till I tell it myself, he said. And then when Lu came to Timhir, he sat on the high seat of the king and looked about him, and he saw the three sons of Turian, and those were the three that were beyond all others at Timhir, and at that time for quickness and skill, for a good hand in battle, for beauty and an honorable name. Then Lu bade his people shake the chain of silence, and they did so. And all listened, and Lu said, "What are your minds fixed on at the time, men of Dea?" "On yourself, indeed," they said. "I have a question to ask you," he said. "What is the vengeance each one of you would take on a man who would kill your father?" There was great wonder on them when they heard that. And one of the chief men among them says, "Tell us what it is your own father was killed." "It was indeed," said Lu, "and I see in this house," he said, "the men that killed him. And they know themselves what way they killed him better than I know it." Then the king said, "It is not a death of one day that I would give the man that killed my father if it was in my power, but to be cut off from his limbs from the day till I die, I would make an end of him." And the chief men said the same, and the sons of Turian like the rest. "There are making that answer," said Lu, "the three men that killed my father, and let them pay the fine for now, since you are all together in this one place. And if they will not," he said, "I will break the protection of the king's house. They must make no attempt to quit this house until they have settled with me." "If it was I myself who killed your father," said the king, "it would be well content you to take a fine from me for him. It is as at us Lu is saying all of this," said the sons of Turian among themselves. "Let us acknowledge the killing of his father to him," said Uchar and Uchbara. "I am in dread," said Bran, "that it is wasting an acknowledgment from us he is in the presence of all the rest, and he will not let us off with a fine afterwards. It is best to acknowledge it," said the others, "and let you speak it out since you are the eldest." Then Brian, son of Turian, said, "It is at us you are speaking, Lu, and for you are thinking we went against the sons of Chianti before now, and we did not kill your father," he said, "but we will pay the fine for him, the same as if we did kill him. I will take a fine from you that you do not think of," said Lu, "and I will say here what it is, and if it is too much for you, I will let you off a share of it." "Let us hear it from you," they said. "Here it is," said Lu. "3 apples, and the skin of a pig, and a spear, and 2 horses, and a chariot, and 7 pigs, and a dog's whelp, and a cooking spit, and 3 shouts on a hill. That is the fine I am asking. And if it is too much for you, a part of it will be taken off presently, and if you do not think it too much, then pay it." "It is not too much," said Brian, "or 100 times of it would not be too much. And we think it likely," he said, "because of its smallness, that you have some treachery towards us behind it." "I do not think it too little of a fine," said Lu, "and I give you guarantee of all that you doth it on, and that I ask no other thing, that I will be faithful to you, and let you give the same pledge to me." "It is a pity that you ask that," said Brian, "for our own pledge is as good as any pledge in the world." "Your own pledge is not enough," said Lu. "It is often like of you to promise to pay a fine in this way, and then try to back out of it later. So then the three sons of Turin bound themselves to the king of Ireland, and by Bobderg, son of the Dagda, and by the chief men of the Tuatha De Danann, that they would pay a fine to Lugh. This is a very interesting scene. I'm not entirely sure what to make of it. I, of course, know how the story ends because I've read a lot of Celtic mythology, but the way it's a very interesting ritualized courtroom scene. It must say a lot about the Irish Brehon laws. Anyway, just interesting to think about. It would be well for me now, said Lugh, to give you better knowledge of the find. Wouldn't well indeed, said they. This is the way of it then. The three apples I have asked of you are the three apples from the garden in the east of the world, and no other apples will do but these, for they are the most beautiful and have the most virtue in them of all the apples in the whole world. And it is what they are like that they are now the color of burned gold, and they are the size of a head of a child a month old. And there is the taste of honey on them, and they do not leave the pain of wounds or the vexation of sickness of anyone who eats them. And they do not lessen by being eaten forever. And the skin I asked you, he said, is the skin pin of pig's skin of Tuis, the king of Greece, and it heals all wounds and all sickness of the world. Whatever danger a man may be in, if he can but it can overtake the life of him, it will cure him. And it is the way with the pig. Every stream of water it would go through would turn into wine on the other end of 9 days and after, and every wound it touched will heal. And it is what the Druids of Greece said, and it is not itself what virtue was, but in the skin, and they skinned it. And the skin was forever since, and I think too it will be not easier for you to get it with or without leave. And do you know what spear I am asking for you now? He said. We do not, said they. It is a very deadly spear belonging to the king of Persia. The Lewin it is called, and every choice thing is done by it, and its head is kept steeped in a vessel of water, the way it will not burn down the place where it is, and it will be hard to get it. Do you know what horses and what chariot I am asking of you? They are the chariot of the two wonderful horses of Dobar, king of Sugaret. And the sea is the same as land to them, and there are no faster horses than themselves, and no equal chariot to this one in shape and strength. And do you know what 7 pigs I ask of you? They are the pigs of Essel, king of the golden pillars. And though they are killed every night, they are found alive again the next day. And there will be no disease or nor sickness on any person that will eat a share of them. And the whelp I asked of you is Frel Innis, the whelp belonging to the king of Erderith, the cold country. And the wild beasts of the world would fall at the sight of her, as she is more beautiful than the sun and his firing wheels, and it will be hard to get. And the cooking spit I asked of you is the spit of the spits of the woman of Innis Sen Finin, the island of Care of the fair hair. And the 3 shouts are to be given on a hill that must be the hill of Moroccan in the north of Lachlan. And Moroccan and his sons are under bounds to allow any shouts to be given on that hill. And it was with him that my father got his learning. And if I would forgive you his death, they would not forgive you. And if you get through all your other voyages before you reach them, it is my opinion that they themselves will avenge him on you. And that is the fine I have asked of you, said Lugh. There was silence and darkness on the sons of Turian when they heard that, and they went to where their father was, and they told him the fine that had been put on them. It is bad news, that is, says Turian, and it is to be your death and your destruction you will be going looking for those things. But for all of that, if Lugh himself had a mind to help you, you could work out this fine, and the men of the world could not do it with the power of Manannan or Lugh. Go then and ask for loan of Manannan's horse, the orator, from Lugh, and if he has any wish to get the fine, he will give it to you. But if he does not wish it, he will say that the horse is not his, and he would not give you a loan of a loan. Ask him then for a loan of Manannan's crock, the Scruptutane, the sweeper of waves, and he will give you that. For he is under bounds not to refuse a second request, and the crock is better for you than the horse, he said. So the sons of Turian went to where Lugh was and saluted him, and they said they could not bring him the fine without his own help, and for that reason they asked him for a loan of the Eon Botter. I have that horse only on loan myself, said Lugh, and I will not give you a loan of a loan. If that is so, give us the loan of Manannan's crock, said Brian. I will give thee, said Lugh. What place is it in? They said. At Brue de Boyne, said Lugh. Then they went back again to where Turian was, and his daughter Ethne, their sister, with him, and they told him that they had got the crock. It is not much the better you will be for it, said Turian. Although Lugh would like well to get every part of that fine he could make use of for the battle with the former, but he would like yourselves to come to your death looking for it. Then they went away and left Turin sorrowful and lamenting. And Ethne went with them to where the crock was, and Bran got into it, and he said, there is place for one other person along with me here. And he began to find fault with its narrowness. You ought not to be faulting the crock, said Ethne, and oh, my dear brother, she said, it is a bad thing you did to kill the father of Lugh the Longhand. Whatever harm may come to you from it is but just. Do not say that, Ethne, he said, for we are in good heart and will do brave deeds, and we would sooner be killed 100 times over, they said, than meet with the death of cowards. My grief, said Ethne, there is nothing more sorrowful than this, to see you driven out from your own country. Then the three pushed out their crock from the beautiful clear bayed shore of Ireland. What course shall we take first? They said. We will go look for the apples, said Brian, as they were the first thing we were bade bring. And so we ask for you, Currach of Manannan, that is under us, to sail to the garden in the east of the world. And the Currach did not neglect their order, but it sailed forward over the green-sided waves and the deep places till it came to the harbor in the east of the world. Then Brian asked his brothers, what way have you to mind to get to the garden? For I think, he said, the king's champion and the fighting men of the country are always guarding it, and the king himself is chief over them. What should we do, said his brothers, but make it straight at them and attack them, and bring away the apple or fall ourselves, since we cannot escape from these dangers that are before us without meeting our death in some place? It would be better, said Brian, the story of our bravery and our craftiness to be told to live after us than folly and cowardice to be told of us. And what is best for us to do now, he said, is to go to the shape of the swift hawks into the garden, and watchers have but their light spears to throw at us. And let you take care to keep out of their reach. And when they have thrown them all, take quick flight to the apples, and let each of you bring away an apple with your claws, and I will bring away the third. They said that that was good advice, and Brian struck the others and himself with his druid rod, and changed them into beautiful hawks. And they flew towards the garden, and the watchers took notice of them, and shouted on every side of them, and threw showers of spears and darts. The hawks kept out of their reach, and Brian had bade them till the spears were spent, and when they swept down bravely on the apples, and brought them away with them, without so much as a wound. And the news went through the city and the whole district. And the king there had three wise, crafty daughters, and they put themselves in the shape of three ospreys and followed the hawks to sea, and sent flashes of lightning before them and after them, and scorched them greatly. It is a pity that what we are now, said the sons of Turin, for we will be burned through and through with this lightning if we do not get some relief. If I can give you some relief, I can do it, said Brian, and he struck himself and his brothers with the druid rod. They were turned into three swans. They went down quickly into the sea, and the ospreys went away from them, and the sons of Turin went into their boat. After that they consulted together, and is what they agreed, to go to Greece and bring away the skin of the pig, with or without leave. So they went forward till they came to the court of the king of Greece. Oh my god, this is a long story. This is going to be the longest part of this. I've only reserved this recording studio for 2 hours, and I've only got 30 minutes left. We are not going to get anywhere near all the way done with this. We might get to the end of the story of the Tuatha De Danann. If I can get to the end of the Tuatha De Danann story, I will be very happy. And I can call it a day and maybe reserve this recording studio again when I've got some more money. Just kidding. It's a free recording studio. Libraries are awesome. What appearance should we put on to be going in there? Said Brian. What appearance should we go in but our own? Said the others. That is not what I think best, said Brian, but to go in with the appearance of poets from Ireland, the way high people of Greece will hold respect and honor. It would work for us to do that, they said, and without a poem, it is little we know how to make one. However, they put the poet's tie on their heads and knocked on the door of the court. And the doorkeeper asked who was in it. We are poets of Ireland, said Brian, and we are come with a poem for the king. The doorkeeper went in and told the king that there were three poets for Ireland at the door. Let them in, said the king, for it is in search of a good man they have come so far from their own country. And the king gave orders that everything should to be well set out to the court, and the way they had seen no place so grand in their travels. The sons of Turian were let in, having the appearance of poets. They fell to drinking and pleasure without delay, and they thought they had never seen, and there was not in the world a court so good, or so large, or household, or place that they had met with better treatment. And then the king's poets got up to give their poems and songs. And then Brian, son of Turian, begged his brothers to say a poem for the king. We have no poem, said they, and they do not ask a poem of us, but the one we know before, and that is to take what we want by strength of our hand. And if we are the strongest, or fail against those against us if they are the strongest. That is not a good way to make a poem, said Brian. And with that he rose up and asked a hearing, and they all listened to him. And it is what he said. O to us, we do not hide your fame or praise you as the oak among kings. The skin of the pig, the bounty for without hardiness is the word I ask for it. The war of a neighbor against an ear, the fair ear of a neighbor will be against him, he who gives us what he owes. The court will not be scarcer for it. A raging army and sudden sea are a danger to whoever goes against them. The skin of the pig, a bounty without hardness, is the word I ask, O Turius. That is a good poem, said the king, but I do not know a word of its meaning. I will tell you its meaning, said Brian. O Turius, we do not hide your fame. We praise you as the oak among kings, that is, as the oak beyond the kingly trees of the wood. So you are beyond the kings of the world in open-heartedness and grandeur. The skin of the pig without hardness, that is, the skin of the pig you own, is what I wish to get from you as reward for my poem. The war with a neighbor against an ear, the fair ear of the neighbor will be against him. That is what you and I will be by our ears about the skin unless I get it with your consent. And the meaning of the poem, said Brian. I would praise your poem, said the king, if there was not so much meaning about my pigskin in it, and you have the good no good sense, man of poetry, he said, to be asking that thing of me. I would not give it to all the poets and all the learned and great men of the world, since they could not take it away without my consent. But I will give you 3 times the full of the skin of gold for your poem. May good be with you, king, said Brian, and I know well there be no easy thing I am asking, but I know I would not get good ransom for it, and I am that covetous, he said, and I will not be satisfied without seeing the gold measured myself against the skin. The king sent his servants with him to the treasure house to measure the gold. Measure out the full of it for my brothers first, said Brian, then give me good measure to measure myself, since it was I who made the poem. But when the skin was brought out, Brian made a quick and sudden snatch at it with his left hand, and drew his sword, and made a stroke at the man nearest to him, and made 2 halves of him. And when he kept hold of the skin and put it on about himself, the 3 of the men rushed out of the court, cutting down every armed man before them, so not one escaped death or wounding. Then Brian went to where the king was, and the king made no delay in attacking him, and they made a hard fight for it. But at the end, the king of Greece fell at the hand of Brian, son of Turin. You ever wonder where the Greeks and the Persians came from in this story? I think it's generally accepted that the ancient Celts were in contact with the Greeks through trade. But you just know that this action really didn't take place in the court of a Greek king, and there was no Greek king of unified Greece at the time. So you gotta wonder, where did this come from? And where is it going? Maybe it was Roman Britain? I don't know. The 3 brothers rested for a while after that, and when they said they would go and look for some other part of the find, we will go to Pizar, king of Persia, said Brian, and ask him for the spear. So they went into their boat and left the blue streams of the coast of Greece, and they said, we are well off. We have the apples and the skin. And they stopped nowhere till they came to the borders of Persia. Let us go to the court with the appearance of poets, said Brian, the same as when we went to the king of Greece. We are content to do that, said the others. As all turned out well the last time, we took our poetry, not that it was easy for us to take a calling that does not belong to us. So they put the poet's tie in their hair, and they went and were as well treated as they were in the other court. But the time came for poems, and Brian rose up, and it is what he said. It is little any spear looks to Pizar, the battle of enemies are broken, and it is not much for Pizar to wound every one of them. The yew, the most beautiful of wood, it is called a king, and it is not bulky. May a spear drive a whole crowd to their wounds of death. That is a good poem, said the king, but I do not understand why my own spear is brought into it, O man of poetry from Ireland. It is because it is the spear of your own that I wish to take as reward for my poem, said Brian. It is little sense that you have to be asking a thing of me, said the king, and the people of my court had never shown greater respect for poetry than now, when they do not put you to death on the spot. When Brian heard that talk from the king, he thought of the apple that was in his hand, and he made a slight cast of it and hit him in the forehead, so that his brains were put out the back of his head. And he bared his sword and made an attack on the people about him. And the other 2 did not fail to do the same. They gave him their help bravely till they made an end of all the people of the court. And they found the spear, and in its head in the cauldron of water, the way that it would not set fire to the place. And it was after a while, and it was time for them to go and look for the rest of the great find that was on them. And they asked one another where they should go. We will go to the king of the island of Seagar, said Brian, for it is with him and the two horses of the chariot that the Eldenach asked of us. And they went forward then and brought the spear with them, and it is proud the three champions were after all they had done. And they went on till they came to the court of the king of Seagar. It is what we would do this time, said Brian. We will go in with the appearance of paid soldiers for Ireland, and we will make friends with the king. The way we will get to know what place the horses and chariot are kept. And when they had settled on their way, they went forward to the lawn before the king's house. The king and the chief men were with him rose up and came to the fair that was going on there. They saluted the king and he asked who were they. We are trained fighting men from Ireland, they said, and we are earning wages from the kings of the world. It is it is your wish to stop with me for a while, said the king. That is what we are wanting, said they. So they made an agreement and took service with him. They stopped in the court a fortnight and a month and never saw the horses through that time. Then Brian said, This is a bad way we are in, to have no more news of the horses now that the first day we came to this place. What is best for us to do now? Said his brothers. Let us do this, said Brian. Let us take our arms and gather our things together and go to the king. Go to the king and tell him we will leave the country and this part of the world unless he will show us our horses. So they went to the king that very day and he asked them what did they mean by getting themselves ready for a journey. You hear that, High King, said Brian. It is because trained fighting men from Ireland like ourselves have always trust put in them by the kings that they guard. We are used to being told the secrets and the whispers of any person we are with. It is not the way you have treated us since we have come here with you. For you have two horses and a chariot that are the best of the world, as we have been told, and we have not given sight of them yet. It is a pity that you would go on that account, said the king, when I would have showed them to you on the first day after known you would wish to see them, and if you have mind to wish to see them now, he said, you may see them. For I think never soldiers came to Ireland to this place that were thought more of by myself and by my people than yourselves. He sent for the horses then, and they were yoked to the chariot, and they were going as fast as the cold spring wind, and the sea was the same as land to them. And Brian was watching the horses closely, and on a sudden he took hold of the chariot, and took the chariot driver, and dashed him against the nearest rock, and made leap into the place himself, and made a cast of the Persian spear at the king, that went through his heart, and when he and his brothers scattered the people before them, and brought away the chariot. We will go now to Esau, king of the golden pillars, said Brian, to look for the seven pills the Ildenach bade us bring him. And they sailed without delay or drawback to that high country. And when the way of the people of the country were, watching their harbors for fear of the sons of Turian, for the story of them had now been told in all parts, and they had been sent by Ireland by force. And now they were bringing away with them the gifted treasures of the whole world. Esau came to the edge of the harbor to meet them, and asked if it was true what he had heard, that the king of every country they had gone to had fallen by them. And Brian said it was true, and ever he might wish to do to them. What was it that made you do that? Said Issel. And Brian told him it was the impression of a hard sentence of another had put them to it, and told them all that had happened, and how they had put down all that had offered to stand against them until that time. What did you come to this country for now? Said the king. For the pigs belonging to yourself, said Brian, for to bring them away as part of our fine. What way do you think to get them? Said the king. If we get them with good will, said Brian, we will take them thankfully. And if we do not, we are ready for battle with yourself and your people and the herd of them, that you may fall by us, and we may bring away the pigs in spite of you. If that is to be the end of it, said the king, it would be a pity to bring my people into battle. It would be a pity indeed, said Brian. I don't know if these people are supposed to be heroic or villainous or what. They have broken every law of hospitality and good standing I can think of, and yet we're following their exploits. Are they raiders? Are they tragic? Oh, I don't know. This is very interesting. Then the king whispered and took advice from his people on the matter, and it was what they agreed to give up the pigs of their own free will to the sons of Turian, since they could not see that any one of them had been able to stand against them in that time. Then the sons of Turian gave their thanks to Essel, and there was wonder on them to have pigs like that. And when they had to fight for every other part of the fine, and more than that, they had left their share of blood in every other place till then. Essel brought them to his own house that night, and they were served with food and drink and good beds, and all they could wish for. And they rose up on the morrow, and came to the king's presence, and the pigs were given to them. It is well done by us, giving us these pigs, said Brian, for we did not want to get any share of the fine without fighting, but these alone. And he made a poem for the king then, praising him and putting his great name for him for what he had done. What journey are you going to make now, sons of Turian? Said Essel. We are going, they said, to the country of the Iridana on account of the whelp that is there. Give me one request, said Ethel, and bring me with you to the king of the Urodaya, for a daughter of mine is his wife. I would wish to persuade him to give you the whelp without battle. That will please us well, they said. So the king's ship was made ready, and we have no knowledge of what happened till they came to the delightful, wonderful coast of Iridana. The people in the armies were watching the harbors and landing places before them, and knew them at once and shouted on them. Then Essel went to the shore peaceably, and he went to where his son-in-law the king was, and told him the story of the sons of Turian from beginning to end. What has brought them to this country? Said the king of Uradar. To ask the hound you have, said Essel. It is not a bad thought you had coming with him to ask that, said the king, for the gods have not given that much luck to any three champions of the world, and they would get my hound by force or good will. It would be better for you to let them have the hound, said Essel, since they have put down so many kings of the world. But he could say only idleness to the king. So went then where the sons of Turin were, and gave them the whole account. And when they heard the king's answer, they made no delay, but put quick hands to their arms, and offered to give battle to the army. And when they met, there was a brave battle fought on both sides. And as for the sons of Turius, they began to strike and kill the men till they parted from one another in the fight, so that Ukar and Ukabara chanced to be on one side, and Brian by himself on the other side. There was a gap of danger, and breaking the ranks was before Brian in every path he took, till he came to the king of Urtha. In the battle pen he was, and when the two brave champions began a fierce fight together, they did not spare one another in it. And at last Brian overcame the king, bound him, and brought him through the middle of the army till he came to the place where Esau was. And it is what he said, There is your son-in-law for you. And I swear by my hand of valor I would think it easier to kill him 3 times than bring him to you like this. So then the whelp was given to the sons of Turian, and the king was unbound, and peace was made between them. And when they had, and I'm sorry, this is a lot of reading, I tell you. And when they had brought this to the end, they bid farewell to Essel and the rest. Now, as to Lou of the Long Hand, it was shown him that the sons of Turian had done all these things that were wanting to him against the battle with the former, and on that, and I'm really sorry, and on that he sent a druid spell after them to put forgetfulness on them of the rest of the fine that they had not got, and put a great desire and longing on them to return to Ireland, so they forgot the part of the fine that was wanting them, and turned back towards home. It was the place where Lou was at the time, the gathering of the people on the fair outside of Teamhair, and the King of Ireland along with them. And it was made known to Lou that the sons of Turian landed in Brodaboyne and went to the city of Teamhair to shut the gate after him, and put on Manannan's smooth armor and the cloak of the daughters of Fildius, and he took his arms in hand. Now, it's very interesting that in this translation, that sometimes Lou is the king of Ireland and sometimes it's Nuda. So I don't know if Lou is the High King or if Nuda is still the High King, or if Lou and Nuda are not the High King and somebody else is the High King. It's very confusing. That isn't just a result of me not reading this correctly. This is not clear as to who the king is. I know the place where he is, said Brian, for it had been well known to him that we came to Ireland with these deadly arms with us, and he has gone to Teamhair to avoid us. Messengers were sent to him then, and as the answer he gave them, that he would not come, but that the fine should be given to the king. So the sons of Turian did that, and when the king had taken the fine, they all went to the palace of Teamhair. And Luke came out on the lawn, and the fine was given to him, and it is what he said. There is good payment here for anyone that is ever killed or has ever been killed. There is something wanting to it that it is not lawful to leave out. And where is the cooking spit? He said. And where are the 3 shouts on the hill that you did not give yet? And when the sons of Turian heard that, there came clouds of weakness on them. And they left the place and went to their father's house that night. And they told him all that they had done and the way Lou had treated them. And there was grief and darkness on Turian then. And they spent the night together, and on the morrow they went to their ship, and Ithner their sister with them, and she was crying and lamenting. And she said, It is a pity, Brian of my life, it is not to Teamhair you are going, after all the troubles you have had before this, even if I could not follow you. O salmon of the dumb Boyne, O salmon of the life river, since I cannot keep you here, I am loath to part with you. O rider of the wave of Turith, the man that stands his best in a fight, if you come back again, I think it will not be pleasing to your enemy. It is a pity. Is there pity with you for the sons of Turin, leaning now on their green shields? There is going to be cause for pity. My mind is filled with it. You to be tonight at being Aldar till the heavy coming morning. I have absolutely no idea what's going on. I assume Turian is lamenting his son's exile, but this doesn't make a lick of sense. You have taken forfeits from brave men, and you have increased our grief. It is a pity your journey is from Timher and the pleasant plains, and from great Ushik and Midhir, and there is nothing as pitiful as this. And after the complaint, they went to the rough waves of the Green Sea, and were a quarter of the year at sea without getting any news of the island. Then Brian put to his water dress and made a leap, and was for a long time walking on the sea, looking for the island of fair-haired women, and he found it in the end. And he went looking for the court, and when he came to it, all he found was a troop of women doing needlework and embroidering the borders, and among them they had other things with them. There was the cooking spit. And Brian saw it, and took it up in his hand. He was going to bring it with him to the door, and the women began laughing when they saw him doing that. And it is what they said: "It is a brave deed you put in your hand, for even if your brothers were along with you, the least of the 3 times 50 women of us would not let the spit go with you or with them. But for all that," they said, "take the spit, and the spit's with you, since you had the daring to try and take the spit from us." Brian bade them farewell then, and went to look for the boat, and his brothers thought he was gone too long he was away from them. And just as they were going to leave the place they were, they saw him coming towards them, and that raised their courage greatly. And they went to the boat, and went to look for the hill of Meokin. And they came there. Meokin was the guardian of that hill, and came towards them. And when Bran saw him, he attacked him. And the fight of those 2 champions was like the fight of 2 lions, until Meokin fell at the last. And after Meokin had fallen, his 3 sons came out to fight with the 3 sons of Turian. And if any of them came from the east of the world to look at any fight, it is the fight of these champions had the right to come for the greatness of their blows and the courage of their minds. The names of the sons of Meokin were Corin and Con and Eth, and they drove their 3 spears through the bodies of the sons of Turian, and it had not discouraged them at all. They put their own 3 spears to the bodies of the sons of Meokin, so that they fell into the clouds in faintness of death. And then Brian said, "What way are you now, my dear brothers? We are near death. Let us rise up," he said, "and give 3 shouts upon the hill, for I see the signs of death coming us." "We are not able to do that," said they. And Brian rose and raised each of them with one hand, and shedding the blood heavily at that time till they gave 3 shouts. And then Brian brought with him to the boat, and they were at sea for a long time. And at last Brian said, "I see our fathers done, and Timur of the kings. We will have our fill of health when we see that," said the others. "And for the love of our good name, brother," said they, "raise your hands up on your breast till we see Ireland again, and life or death will be the same to us after that." "And O'Brien," said they, "flame of valor without treachery, we would sooner death bring ourselves away, than see you with wounds upon your body, and with no physician to heal you." Then they went to Ben Eder, and from that they went to their father's house. And Brian said to Turin, "Go to your father to Timur, and give the spit to Lou, and bring the skin that has healing in it for our relief. Ask it for him for the sake of friendship," said, "for we are of one blood, and let him not give hardness for hardness. And oh, dear father," he said, "do not be long for your journey, or you will find us not alive before you." Then Turier went to Timur, and he found Lou of the Long Hand before him, and gave him the spit, and asked him for the skin to heal his children. And Lou said he would not give it. And Turian gave back to them, and said Lou would not give the skin. And Brian said to bring me with you to Lou, and see I would get it from him. So they went to see Lou, and Brian asked for the skin, and Lou said he would not give it, and that they would not give him the breadth of the earth in gold for it, and he would not take it from them, unless he was sure their deaths would come on him in satisfaction for the deed they had done. And Brian heard that. He went to the place his 2 brothers were, and he lay down between them, and the life went from him, and out of the other 2 the same. And their father cried and lamented over his 3 beautiful sons, that he had making a king of Ireland of each of them, and his strength left him, and he died, and all 4 were buried in one grave. Good God. I mean, I knew how this myth was before I read Lady Gregory's translation. But oh god. Usually Lu is the hero. He's the hero king, the king of all heroes, the greatest hero of Earth. Or Venge. Maybe the Sons of Turian were the villains? Maybe I'm thinking of this too black and white. We're dealing with a pagan culture with thoughts on good and evil that could be very foreign to us in the modern day. All right, I've got one story left, so I'm going to give a short pause. And the final story is only 8 pages long, and those 8 pages will be the last part of this podcast. And again, this has been Connlyn Sinclair, reads Lady Gregory. And I hope you've enjoyed so far. This has been very fun to do, stumbling over this book for all of you to enjoy and laugh at me. So let's give a quick pause. And it was not long after Lu had got the fines from the sons of Turian that the former came and landed at Skinect. And the whole host of the former were come this time, and their king Baylor of the strong blows and of the evil eye along with them, and Bress and Indik son of Dedomnan, a king of the former, and Ethlin son of Lobos, and Gaul and Ingal, and Octraloch son of Ingal, and Athlon son of Delbreth. And Lu sent the Dogda to spy on the former and to delay them till such a time as the men of Ireland would come to battle. So the Dogda went to their camp and asked him for delay, and they said he might have that. And then to make sport of him, the former made broth for him, for he had a great love for broth. And they filled the king's cauldron with 4 times 20 of new milk, and at the same of meal and fat, and they put it in goat and sheep and pig along with it, and boiled all together. And when they poured it into a great hole in the ground, they called him to it then, and told him to eat his fill, the way the former would not be reproached for want of hospitality, the way Bress was. We will make an end of you if you leave any part of it after you, said Indak, son of Dedomnan. So the Dogda took a ladle, and it was big enough for one man and a woman to lie in the bowl of it, and he took out the bits with it, and the half of the salted pig, and a quarter of the lard, and bit would be. If the broth tastes as well as the bits taste, this is good food, he said. And he went on putting the full of the ladle into his mouth until the whole was empty. And when all was gone, he put down his hand and scooped up all that was left among the earth and the gravel. Sleep came to him then after eating the broth, and the former were laughing at him, for his belly was the size of the cauldron of the great house. But he rose up after a while, and heavy was he, and made his way home. And indeed, his dress was no way slightly, and a cape to the hollow of the elbows, and brown coat, long in the breast and short behind, and his feet brogues of horse's hide, and with hair outside on his head, a wheeled fork it would take 8 men to carry, so that the track left after him was deep enough for a boundary ditch of the province. And on his way he saw the battle crow, the Morgrew, washing herself in the river Unis of Connacht, and one of her 2 feet at Uland Eknin in the south of the water, and the other at Luskin in the north of the water, and her hair hanging in 9 loosened locks. And she said to the Dogda that she would bring the heart's blood of Indic, son of to Domnan, who had threatened him, to the men of Ireland. And while he was away, Lu called together the druids and smiths and physicians and lawmakers and chariot drivers of Ireland to make plans for the battle. And he asked the great magician Methkin what he could do to help him. It is what I can do, said Methkin, through my power to throw down all the mountains of Ireland at the Fomor until their tops will be rolling on the ground, and the 12 chief mountains of Ireland will bring you their help, he said, and will fight for you. Sliv Lang and Dina Ulid and Beanie Brush and Ben Rui and Schlieve Baldma and Schlieve Schlate and Schlieve Miss and Balasleeve and Nethman and Sleeve Mock Belgun and Skiris and Crothman Ogle. Then he asked the cupbearers what they would give. We will put a strong thirst on the former, they said, and then we will bring the 12 chief locks of Ireland before them. And however great their thirst may be, they will find no water in them. Dirk Loch, Loch Lemaine, Loch Orbson, Loch Ree, Loch Methke, Loch Curran, Loch League, Loch Ethkin, Loch Feeble, Loch Ducket, Loch Rioch, Moor Loch. And we will go, they said, to the 12 chief rivers of Ireland, the Boose, the Boyne, the Bonna, the Nem, the Lough, the Shannon, the Mood, the Schleek, the Schlimmer, the Fion, the Roochick, the Sioux, and they will be hidden away from the former, they will not find a drop in them. But as for the men of Ireland, they said, they will drink of them, as if there will be no end of battle at the end of 7 years. And Figel, son of Mamos the Druid, asked then what he would do, and he said, it is what I would do. I will cause 3 showers of fire to pour on the faces of the army of the former, and I will take from them 2/3 of their bravery and strength, and put sickness on their bodies, and on their bodies of their horses. But as to the men of Ireland, every breath they breathe will be an increase of strength and bravery to them. And if they are 7 years in battle, they will never be any way tired. Then Lugh asked the 2 witches, Buchel and Dunan, what powers they can bring to battle. It is easy to say that, they said. We will put an enchantment on the trees and stones and the sods of the earth, and they will become armed against the host of the former, and put terror on them, and put them to rout. Then Lugh asked Capri, the poet, son of Eton, what he could do. It is not hard to say that, said Capri. I will make a satire on them at sunrise, and the wind from the north, and on the hilltop, and make my way back to a thorn tree, and a stone and thorn in my hand, and with that satire, he said, I will put shame on them, an enchantment, and the way they will go will not be able to stand against fighting men. Then he asked Gabanu the smith what he would do. I will do this, he said. If the men of Ireland stop in battle to the end of 7 years, for every sword that is broken and every spear that has lost its shaft, I will put a new one in its place. And no spear point that will be made by my hand, he said, will ever miss its mark, and no man that touches it will taste life again. And that is more than Daub the smith the former can do, he said. This is really interesting because this sounds like the kind of ritualized shamanic spells that might have really been said by whatever historical figures these gods are based on. These might really have been curses that druids put on people that are recorded here for posterity. It's really fascinating stuff. Oh, where was I? And you, Credney, said Lugh. He said then to the worker in brass, what help can you give our men in battle? It is not hard to tell that, said Credney. Rivets for their spears and the hilts of their swords, and bosses and rims of their shields, I shall supply them all. And you, Leucta, he said to the carpenter, what will you do? I will give them all they want of shields and of spear shafts, said Leucta. And then Dion Neck the physician, what would he do? It is what he said. Every man that will be wounded there, unless his head is struck off, or his brain or his marrow cut through, I will make him whole again and sound again for the battle of the morrow. Then the dog just said, "Those great things you are boasting you will do, I will do them all with only myself. It is you that are good God," they said. And they all gave a great shout of laughter. Now, I know the dog is the great God, but I don't know if he's supposed to be joking there, if he's supposed to be acting in the role of a jester. That whole thing with eating the trough of cows seems like he's acting as like royal jester in this, although I know he's the king later after Lou. I don't know, it's very interesting. I don't know what you can glean from old Irish religion from this, though. Oh, where was I? Then Lou spoke to the whole of the army, and he put strength in them, so that each one of them had the spirit in him of a king or a great lord. Then, when the delay was at the end, and the former and the men of Ireland came towards one another, till they came to the plains of Meg Truith, and there was not the same Meg Truith where the fourth battle was fought, but it was at the north, near Esdera. And the two armies threatened one another. The men of Ireland are daring enough to battle us, said Breth to Indic, son of Don Jumnan. And I give my word, said Ingdith, that in small pieces their bones will be, if they do not give in to us and pay their tribute. Now the men of Dea had not let Lou go into battle, because his loss would be the death of them, and they left 9 of their own men to keep watch on him. On the first day, none of the kings or princes went into battle, but only common fighting men, but they were fierce and proud enough. And the battle went on like that from day to day, no great advantage from one to another. But there was wonder on the former on account of one thing, such as their own weapons were broken and blunted after the fight, and lay as they were. But such their own men were killed and saw no signs of life on the morrow. But it was not so with the Tuatha De Danann, for their men were killed or their weapons were broken. They were good as before on the morrow. And this is what happened. The well of the slain lay to the west of the Mag Troch, on the east of Loch Urbach, and Dion Necht and his son Octrul and his daughter Eramed to used to be singing spells over the wall. They would put herbs in it, and the men that were wounded to death in the battle would be brought to the wall and put in as dead men, and they would come out whole and sound through the power of the spells. And not only were they healed, but they were such fire put into them that they would be quicker on the fight than before. And as to the arms, it is the, the way they were made new every day. Gulbanu the smith used to be in the forge making spears and swords. He would make a spear head in 3 turns, and Luke the carpenter would make a shaft in 3 cuts, and the third cut was a finish, and would set the ring in the spear, and the spearheads would be struck in the side of the forge, and would know the shaft and the rings the way they would go in the spear, and no more went the settings. And then Cridne the blazer would make the rivets in 3 turns, and would cast the rings and the spears to them. They would be ready, and together would be set. And all this went against the former. And they sent one of their young men to spy on the camp, to see if he could find out how these things were done. And it was Rudin, son of Bress, and Bridget, daughter of the Dogda, they sent. For he was a son and grandson of the Tuatha De Danann. And he went and saw that all that was done, and went back to the former. And when they heard the story, it is what they thought, that Gulbanu the smith was a man that hindered them most. They rent Rudin back again, and bade him make an end of him. So he went back to the forge, and asked Gulbanu to give him a spearhead, and then asked the rivets of Credne and the shaft of the carpenter. And there was a woman there, Cron, mother to Finalug, grinding the spears. And after the spear was given to Rudin, he turned and threw it at Golbu and wounded him. Well, Golbanu pulled it out and made a cast of it at Rudin, and it went right through him, and he died. And Bress, his father, and the army of the former saw him die, and then Bridget came and keened her son was shrieking and crying. That is a completely bizarre thing to insert here. The Smith god killed somebody after getting stabbed? There's gotta be more to that story that's just like really quickly summarized. And as to Gobanu, he went into the well to be healed, and after that, Octrelok, son of Indict, called to the former, and bid each man of them bring a stone of stones of Drenes and throw them into the well of the slain. And they did just that, and the well dried up, and a cairn raised over it, that it is now called Octrelok's Cairn. And then for a while, Golbnu was making spearheads for the Battle of Mug Turret. A charge was brought against his wife, and it was seen that it was a heavy news to him, and that jealousy came to him, and it is what he did. There was a spear shaft in his hand when he heard the story. Ness its name was, and he sung spells over the spear shaft, and anyone that was struck with the spear afterwards would burn him up like fire. I assume the fire is a metaphor for jealousy. And the last of the day the great battle came, and the former came out of their camp and stood in strong ranks. And there was not a leader or fighting man of them that stood without good armor to his skin, and a helmet on his head, a broad spear in his right hand, and a heavy sword on his belt, a strong shield on his shoulder, and to attack the enemy of the army of the former that day was to strike the head against a rock or go up against fighting a fire. And the men of Dea rose up and left Lu and his 9 companions keeping him, and they went into battle. And Midhair was with them, and Bob Durg, and Dion Kept, and Bad, and Macha, and the Morgu called out that they would go along with them. And it was a hard battle was fought, and for a while it was going against the Tuatha De Danann, and Nuda of the Silver Hand their king, and Macha, daughter of Emes, fell by Baelor, king of the former, and Casmael fell by Ostrolok, and the Dagna got a dreadful wound from a casting spear that was thrown by Kethlin, the wife of Baelor. When the battle was going on, Lu broke away from those that were keeping him and rushed out to the front of the men of Dea. And there then was a fierce battle fought, and Lu heartening among the men of Ireland to fight well, the way they would not be in bounds any longer. For it was better for them, he said, to die protecting their country than live under the bonds at any tribute any longer. Oh, wow. And he sang a song of courage to them, and gave the hosts a great shout as they went into battle. And there they met together, and each of them began to attack the other, and there was great slaughter, and laying low in graves. And many comely men fell there in the stall of death. Pride and shame were there side by side, and hardness and red anger. And there was red blood on the white skin of young fighting men, and the dashing of spear against shield and sword against sword, and the shouting of the fighters, and the whistling of the casting of spears, and the rattling of scabbards was like harsh thunder through the battle. And many slipped in the blood that was under their feet, and came, and striking their heads against one another, and the river came carry their bodies of their friends and enemies together. This is quite a story. Then Lu and Baelor met in battle, and Lu called out reproaches to him, and there was anger on Baelor. And he said to the men that were with him, Lift up my eyelid till I see this chatterer that is talking to me. And they raised Baelor's eyelid, but Lu made a cast of his red spear at him that brought out his eye through the back of his head, so that it went towards the army as it fell. I've heard numerous stories that the red spear of Lu is meant as a thunderbolt, and that he's casting red lightning through Baylor's eye. It also might be the triumph of the forged weapon, iron, from the smith, Lu being a smith, through the eye of the non metalworking people. Um, None of this is apparent in this telling of the myth, but it's interesting trivia. 3 times 9 of the former died when they looked at it, and if Lou had not put out the eye when he died, the whole of Ireland would have burned in one flash. And after this, Lou struck off his head. And as for Edict, son of Don Donma, he fell and was crushed in the battle, and the blood burst from his mouth, and he called out for Elite Glass, his poet, and he lay there but was unable to help him. And the Morrigu came into the battle, and she was heartening the Tutua de Donnan to fight the battle well. And she had promised the Dagda she took full in her 2 hands of and Edict's blood, and gave it to the armies that were waiting at the ford of Unius, and they were called it was called the ford of destruction from that day. And after that, it was not the battle any more, but a rout, and the former were beaten back to the sea, and Lou and his comrades were following them. And they came up to Brest, son of Elahin, and no guard with him, and he said, "It is better for you to spare my life than kill me. And if you spare me now," he said, the cows of Ireland will never go dry." I suppose the crows of Ireland are having a blast right now with all this death and destruction. "I will ask advice about that from our wise men," said Lou. So he told Meltane, more breath of the great judgment, what Bress was saying, but Meltane said, "Do not spare him for that, for he has no power over their offspring, though he has power as long as they are living." Then Bress said, "If you spare me, the men of Ireland will reap a harvest of corn every quarter." But Meltane said, "The spring is for plowing and sowing, and the beginning of summer for the strength of the corn, and the beginning of autumn for its ripeness, and the winter for using it." "That does not save you," said Lou, and then to Bress. But then to make an excuse for sparing him, Lou said, "Tell us what is the best way for the men of Ireland to plow, and to sow, and to reap. Let their plowing be on a Tuesday, and their casting of seed on the field to be on a Tuesday, and the reaping on a Tuesday," said Breath. And Lou said that that would do, and let him go free after that. It was in that battle that Ogma found Orna, the son of Tethrath, king of the former, and took it from him in his sheath and cleaned it. And when the sword was taken out of his sheath, it told all the deeds done by it. And there was used to be the power in swords. And Lu and the Dagda and Ogma followed after the former, for they had brought away the Dagda's harp with them, which was called Utatane. And they came to the feasting house, and in it they found Bress and his father Ethlin, and there was the harp hanging on the wall. And it was that harp that the Dagda had bound the music, so that it would not sound until he would call for it. And sometimes it was called Dur de Blah, the oak of 2 blossoms, and sometimes Cor Seth Chun, the 4-angled music. And he saw it hanging on the wall, he said, "Come summer, come winter, from the mouth of the harps and pipes and bags." Then the harp sprang from the wall and came to the Dagda, and it killed 9 men on. I love Irish poetry. This is just so ridiculous. And he played it for them, the 3 things harpers understood: the sleepy tune, the laughing tune, and the crying tune. And when he played the crying tune, the tearful women cried. And then he played the laughing tune till the women and children laughed. Then he played the sleeping tune, and all the hosts fell asleep. And through that sleep they went away through the former that had been glad to harm them. I guess they killed them. And when that was over, the Dagda brought out his heifer that he had got from as wages from breasts at the time he was making his dun. And she called to her calf, and that was the sound of her call to all the cattle of Ireland that the former had been brought away from tribute, were back in the fields again. Okay, that's. I think Lady Gregory added that because the thing with the cow was like 4 chapters ago in a completely unrelated story. And see, the druid of Nuda the Silverhand was wounded in battle, and he went southward till he came to Carn Corslap. And there he sat down to rest, tired with his wounds and with the fear that was on him in the journey. And he saw the smooth plain before him full of flowers. And a great desire came to him to reach the plain. And he went on till he came to it, and there he died, and his grave was made there. A lake burst over it, and over the whole plain was given the name Loch Sea. And there were but 4 men of the former left in Ireland after the battle, and they used to be going through the country, spoiling milk and fruit wherever they came from the sea. They were driven out one Samhain night by the Morrigu and by Angus Og, that the former might never be over Ireland again. And the battle was won, and the bodies were cleared away. The Morrigu gave out the news of great victory to the hosts and to the loyal heights of Ireland, and to its chief rivers and its invers. And it is what she said: Peace up to the skies and down to the earth, and the earth under the skies, strength to everyone. And as to a number of men that fell in battle, it will not be known till we number the stars in the sky, and the flakes of snow, or the dew in the grass under the feet of cattle, or the horses of the son of Lear on a stormy sea. And Lugh was made king over the men of Dia then, and it was said, and it was at Nass he had his court. So now Lugh is the king. See, I don't think whoever was telling Lady Gregory this story, really knew who was king when, because it seemed like Lugh and Nuda were kind of co-kings. But now Lugh has been crowned High King, but I assume under the High King system, Nuda is still a king. Correct me if I'm wrong, obviously. And while he was king, his foster mother Telete, daughter of Mag Mor, the Great Plain, died, and before her death she bade her husband Duach the Dark that he should build a fort of the hostages in Timor, and clear away the wood of Cuin, and the way he could make a gathering of the people around her grave. So he called to the men of Ireland to cut down the wood with their wide-bladed knives and billhooks and hatchets. And within a month the whole of the wood was cut down. And Lugh buried her in the plain of Midi, and raised a mound over her that is said to be seen to this day. And he ordered fires to be kindled, and kennings to be made, and games and sports to be held in the summer of every year out of respect to her. And the place they were held got its name for her, the Tull Trin. Some versions of the story it says birth mother, who the games are dedicated to. I had never heard this version of the story where it says foster mother before. Kind of an interesting side note. And as to Lugh's own mother, that was tall, beautiful Ethlyn, she came to tame her after the battle of Mag Turet, and he gave her in marriage to Tag, son of Nuda. And the children that were born to them were Myrne, mother of Finn, head of the Fianna of Ireland, and Tureen, who is the mother of Bran. That's an odd side note because I don't think Finn McCool even appears in this story for another like 10 chapters, and usually Finn is said to have lived in at the time of King Arthur, which is a good 1,000 or so years after this battle is supposed to have taken place. Chronology, it's not law. We got one more tiny little chapter, so I am just going to keep reading it because it's only a page long, and there's no use having a final 3 minute podcast. And after Lew had the kingship for a long time, the Dagda was made king in his place, and Lew went out of Ireland, and some day say he died in Usanik, the place where the five provinces meet, and the first place there was ever a fire kindled in Ireland. It was by Mead, son of Breath, it was kindled for the sons of Nemed, and it was burning through 6 years, and it was from the fire that the chief fire was kindled in Ireland. But Lew was seen again in Ireland at the time of Concubar, and the men of the Red Branch went following white birds southward to the Boyne, at the time of Cuchulain's birth. And it was he came to watch over Cuchulain in his 3 days' sleep at the time of the war of the Red Bull of Cuchulainn. And again that and after that again he was seen by Con of the 100 Battles, and this is the way it happened. Con was in Timher one time, and went up early in the morning to the wrath of the kings at the rising sun, and his 3 Druids with him, Amal and Block and Bruce, and his 3 poets, Ethane and Corb and Cessern. And the reason he had for going there was that every day was to look on about it every side, the way any man of the city would come from Ireland. They would not come unknown to him. And on this day he chanced to stand upon the stone that was in the rath, and the stone screamed under his feet, and it was heard all over Timor as far as Brigna. And then Con asked the chief druid how the stone came to be here, and what it screamed for. And the druid said he would not answer that till the end of 53 days. At the end of that time, Con asked him again, and the druid said, "The Law Fiel is the name of the stone, out of Phileas, and it was brought here, and it is in Timor it was set up, and in Timor it will stay forever. As long as there is a king in Timor, it is here. It will be the gathering place for games. And if there was no king to come on the last day of the gathering, there will be hardness in the year. And when the stone screamed under your feet," he said, "the number of screams it gave, it was a foretelling of the number of kings of your race that would come after you. But it is not I myself will name them for you." And while they were at the same place, there came a great mist about them, and a darkness, so that they could not know the way they were going, and they heard a noise of a rider coming towards them. "It will be great grief to us," said Con, "to be brought away into a strange country." And the rider threw 3 spears at them, and every one came faster than the other. "It is a wounding of the king indeed," said the Druids. "Any one to cast at Con of Timhir." The rider stopped casting his spears on that, and came to them and bade Con welcome, and he asked him to come to his house. They went on till they came to a beautiful plain, and there they saw the king's rath and the golden tree at its door. And inside the rath a round house with a roof of white bronze. So they went into the house, and the rider had come to meet them, was there was there before them in his royal seat, and there had never been a man like him at Timor for comeliness or beauty or wonder of his face. There was a young woman in the house, having a band of gold on her head, and a vessel of silver with hoops and gold beside her, and it full of ale, and a golden bowl at the edge of it, and a golden cup at its mouth. And she said to the master of the house, "Who am I to serve drink to?" "Serve it to Con of the 100 Battles," said he, "for he will gain 100 battles before he dies." And after that he bade her pour out the ale for the art of the 3 Shouts, the son of Con. And after that, art of the art of the 3 Shouts is a name, for art of the 3 Shouts, the son of Con. And after that he went through the names of all the kings of Ireland that would come after Con, and he was told what their the length of their life, told, and he was told what would be the length of their lifetime. And the young woman left the vessel with Con, and the cup and the bowl she gave, along with the rib of an ox and of a hog. 24 feet was the length of the ox rib, and the master of the house told them that the young woman was the kingship of Ireland forever. And as for myself, he said, I am Lou of the Long Hand, son of Ethlin. And the next part of the book details the Gaelic people coming to Ireland and starts the cycle of the kings, I imagine, which leads into the Fianna cycle. But I don't have time to read all these because I am reserving this recording studio for only another 30 minutes. So thank you for listening to me read this book for the first time and butcher all these Irish names. I love Celtic mythology. I love Irish culture. I love Ireland and Scotland and wish for their independence from England forever, but I can't speak a word of Gaelic, so none of this was an intentional insult. And again, I am Connlyn Sinclair. I'm an author of several children's fantasy books that are out, and I am on Medium as Connlyn Sinclair. And if you enjoyed my readings of Lady Gregory, I recommend you buy your own copy of Lady Gregory's Gods and Fighting Men. And I bid you thank you for listening to this podcast, and I hope you'll check me out on Medium. Thank you so much.